Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Wow. Andrew, the year is almost over. What happened?
It flew by. What, 22? Nope, it's 20, about to be 2024. Come on now.
Wow. I don't even know if I can count that high. 2021, 2022. What's next?
20, you got me.
Yeah, this is a hard one. All right. So every week we have the show. We've been going on since 2017 was when we started. We had a pilot in December 2016. So this is like, what, almost 7 years. 7 years of shows. Every week. Wow. That's a lot. Thank you, Andrew.
Woo-hoo! Yay. Woo!
And each week we try to talk to people about business, either bring in a CEO of a company, some new business idea, or somebody just trying to teach you something about, hey, the latest craze, Facebook advertising, TikTok, how to become an influencer, SEO, and not necessarily you have to be an internet company. There are plenty of companies out there. We had a ramen noodle company, Albany Farms, whatever. They actually produce ramen. So, I mean, it's not just for that, but we do each week try to teach people something about business. And the show is Ask Brien, but nobody really understands, or at least if you're a first-time viewer, for the first-time viewers, they don't understand why it's called Ask Brien, and they don't understand why there's an E in Ask Brien. But we have a resident expert, also the co-host, Traci. She's going to try to help us out. Traci, you think you can help us out here? I mean,
I think you can. Is it just really sick that I just like get giddy when you call me a resident expert, even though I'm a resident expert of ease? What does that even mean, right? But I feel so good about that.
Well,
title,
nobody else. I'm
expert.
not going to ask Andrew.
Well,
You're the resident expert.
But I'd appreciate it if you didn't, because I am the resident expert.
Andrew, do you know those?
That's Traci. She's the expert here.
But that's one of the E's.
Exactly. So that is a perfect way to kick it off, except for I prefer to kick things off with how absolutely phenomenal our engineer is. And because we couldn't even have the show. Yay! We couldn't even have the show if it wasn't for our engineer. And, you know, while we miss Jennifer, who is very much enjoying her vacation, all the rest of us here are working today, and she's on vacay. So, you know, it's even more special, Andrew, that you're here with us. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
That kind of means he just got stuck and he was the last man out, right?
I am here
wanted
today.
that vacation. I couldn't get it.
Yeah, it's all about that management title, right? It just
He's on that totem pole really high.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of blessings, our other E is all about the experts. And this show, we have had, like, you know, you were just saying 7 years now, going into 8 years, right? Like, we have had so many amazing experts, people that have run million-dollar companies, multi-million-dollar companies, and even higher, and they share their expertise with us and really help the entrepreneurs out there that are listening and really being able to help shortcut their learning curve, because based on that mathematical formula, Peter, man, it takes a lot to be an expert. You've got to invest at least 10,000 hours, and that's calculated roughly by working 40 hours or so a week over the course of 50 weeks, which would take you like 5 years. But, you know, we scratch that math anyway and say it's probably closer to 3 if you're a startup, because you're not working 40 hours. And if you are, you're not starting up very quick. And that requires a lot of empathy on behalf of entrepreneurs, because you got to empathize with all of us out there just grinding every single day, right?
What is empathy?
You know, I thought you'd never ask, because I didn't think you ever knew. And I'm not even going to...
Who empathizes with others?
What?
Who empathizes with others? This is business.
Yeah.
Business is a cutthroat business. You can't be, let's give a trophy to the winners and the losers.
Okay, no one said anything about trophies, and that's not even an E word. So whatever.
Whatever.
And whatever's
Are you from the
not
Valley?
either. But
are you a Valley girl?
Whatever. So, like, really, let's get some more E's out there. Like, how about you and your enthusiasm for empathy? How about that?
And that's why I am so excited. No, cheers.
Every week I forget to turn down the volume.
Well, that's why you have a problem with your ears, which also begins with an E.
Yes, I do have a problem with my ears. Yes, they're ringing, actually, and they ring
Maybe you have
every
tinnitus.
week about this time.
I think you should check your doctor for tinnitus if your ears are ringing.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if insurance will cover it. I think, actually, this could be considered disability, so we need to look into that. Andrew, can you look that up for me? That's another benefit of that management title you got.
I'm on it.
All right. Well, I know that we have multiple other E's, and energetic is one of them. And I'm really energetic about wrapping up this phenomenal year that we've had together, Peter, and really look forward to more amazing episodes in 2024. Well, that was a stretch. But yeah, so the show wouldn't be the show unless you tee me up for my most favorite E.
But before we do that, because some people haven't listened to the show, our show, we try to educate.
Educate.
People.
Yes.
We're all about educating, and mostly entrepreneurs, but not everyone's an entrepreneur, but we do try to educate entrepreneurs, double E's. Okay? And then, this is Tracy's favorite, and she likes that movie, Grease Lightning, and she remembers that scene where they say, Grease Lightning is
electrifying and electrifying. Yes. Crowd noise. Woo, electrifying. Yes, my favorite E. Yes.
Okay. Well, why didn't you introduce the guest today, Tracy?
Oh, I would be more than happy to introduce the guest today. So our guest today is an expert in most things legal.
Some things illegal.
And some things illegal, but we won't talk about those. No, Peter, I'm excited that you're our guest today because from what I understand, you're going to bring forth your lawyer expertise and help us break down and get insight on some of these new laws that are going into effect next week that can really impact business owners. And if you haven't been paying attention, you're a business owner and you're a business owner in California especially, and you haven't been paying attention, you better straighten up and sit up and tune in and tune out everything else, because this is going to be a really important show today, all about the new laws going into effect and how they can impact you and potentially your bottom line.
So thank you, Tracy. So the first thing we're going to discuss, we're not going to go into the law right now. But I do want everybody to understand there's a new law called the Corporate Transparency Act that's going to affect every single business owner. And I'm going to repeat that. Every single business owner. That means anyone that owns a limited liability company, they own a corporation, any business owner is going to be required to file with FinCEN, that's the Financial Center division of the IRS, certain provisions, including the owners of the corporation. But before we get into that specifically and item by item and go through a thorough analysis, there are some laws that we want to go over first. And then we're going to go over and spend the rest of the show on this act, which is very, very important. And so I know everyone's going to be listening and waiting for that part to come on. But first, I want to go over some of these other laws that people are not aware of. Most of these laws that we're going to go over are California-based. So if you're not in California, it may not apply to you, but certainly would if you're doing business in California, which is the majority of our audience. So the first thing is people are unaware of this, and I'm going to try to quiz people. So Tracy, what do you think the minimum wage is, not in California, but in the United States? Actually, you know what? I'm going to direct it to Andrew. Andrew, what do you think?
Andrew probably knows better than I do.
No, but I doubt he does because he's thinking California. What do you think is the minimum wage in the United States?
I am thinking about California, so I'll go lower and I'll say 16.
No. Not even close. Not even in the ballpark. Not
Okay.
even as a Japanese player on the Dodgers. The reality is, the minimum wage is less than $10 an hour. Some states have it as low as $8, $9 an hour, $7 an hour. Okay, that's the minimum wage. Now there are 25 states that have higher minimum wages. Obviously, states like California and New York. So one thing is, in the state of California, the minimum wage on January 1st will be, Andrew,
$20?
16.
16? Really? Oh, it's going to be eventually going up to $20.
Well,
Year by year.
currently it's $15.50, and it'll be $16 beginning on January 1st. However, as all lawyers do, and how we love the E, exceptions. So in California, there'll be exceptions. One of the first exceptions will be if you are involved in the healthcare, if you're a healthcare worker. Healthcare workers, the minimum wage is going to be $23 an hour. Wow, it's a lot of money. 40 times 23. Can you do the math? That's $920 a week. That's a lot of money. All right. Now, the other group of people in the state of California beginning an increase. That increase is not going to happen until April 1st. Anyone who's in the fast food business, if you own a McDonald's, if you're in the fast food industry, and they don't specifically define what fast food is, your minimum wage beginning April 1st, 2024 will be $20 an hour. You're going to make $800 a week if you work at McDonald's, scrubbing the floor. Wow. That's pretty incredible, especially when you could be in another state and be getting $300 a week as minimum wage. You can make more than 2.5 times, 266% times the people in another state. That's pretty incredible. Andrew, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Do people have to get paid for sick leave if you're an employer?
Let's go with yes.
Well, that's
just 50-50 shot.
Well, in actuality, okay, California is a state that does, but there is no requirement to pay for sick leave. There is no requirement. However, California, if you're working 40 hours a week and 5 days, after the 200 calendar days, you will be getting 5 days of sick leave that the employer is going to have to pay. And we're going to take it out of Tracy's salary on the show. And we all know Tracy makes lots of money.
I'm bringing down the big bucks over here.
Absolutely. And then,
but now it's going to be cutting into my pay, so I think I'm just going to have to get sick more often.
I just want to go over some things that are non-business related, because some of these things kind of surprised me. So first of all, in California, beginning January 1st, if you are renting a house or renting an apartment to somebody, the security deposit is going to be equal to 100% of 1 month's rent. In other words, you are not going to be able to say, hey, listen, I want to collect, your rent is $2,000. I need a $4,000 security deposit. You won't be able to do that. There's a limitation. Now, there are certain exceptions, but for mom and pop, that type of business, but you are not going to be able to collect a security deposit more than 100% of 1 month's rent. That's a new law taking effect January 1st. There's other things also in the rental area, one of which is credit history. You cannot use a person's credit history to accept or deny somebody for rent. So all those companies out there that were asking, hey, I need your credit report or your information, we're going to do a credit check. Well, you can do that. But under California law, it prohibits the use of a person's credit history as part of the application process for rental housing. That's a new law taking effect January 1st. And this I need clarification. So you can ask them for their credit report, or you no longer can ask them for their credit report? It says it prohibits the use of a person's credit history as part of the application process for renting housing accommodations. Tenants
Could you help me understand why that should be illegal when people need to be able to know whether or not they can pay the rent?
Well, that's a good question. I would guess, and I'm not the legislature. I didn't pass these laws. I'm just reporting the news. Like, what's that guy Ness from WKRP?
Yeah. Okay, Les.
Yeah, he had a lot of character, that guy. All right. Anyway, Andrew, do you have that or you don't have that? Oh, he doesn't have the. All right. Well, we'll have to do it. So my belief is that it's to allow poorer people or people that have bad credit history the opportunity to rent. And so I believe that this is a progressive approach whereby they're trying to say, listen, just because you have bad credit doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to rent an apartment. So what if you have that 450 credit score? Tracy, I'm sorry I told everybody what your score is, but Tracy.
Oh no, I'm taking personal offense to that because I have excellent credit. I've always had excellent credit, and it's one of my tips to people that I mentor: don't mess up your credit.
Exactly, but I guess there are people that are poorer people. Maybe they're not making a lot of money. And they're having trouble with their bills, and so their credit score is really, really low. They file bankruptcy, something happens, now they can't rent. So I think that's why it's being passed, to help them be able to get into an apartment so they're not on the street and homeless. That would be my guess. What do you think, Andrew? It's a good guess, bad guess, medium guess?
All right, good guess. Good guess.
All right. Where's the no clapping? All right. That's time for. We only have 3 more minutes before the break, and we need to at least start with the. Can I get a drum roll? The new.
Whoa! Now that's a drum roll. Dang.
It is a drum roll, and this is for the new Corporate Transparency Act, which requires anybody that owns a limited liability company or a corporation from being required to disclose the ownership of that entity. What does that mean? So if you have a corporation now, you do not have to list who the shareholders are. Nobody needs to know. If you have a limited liability company, nobody needs to know. But now, on the Corporate Transparency Act that was passed by Congress in every single state, so whether or not you're in Bangor, Maine, or Austin, Texas, or Helena, Montana. Doesn't matter where you are. You're going to have to respond and comply with the Corporate Transparency Act. That act will take effect on January 1st, 2024 in the United States. Now, it will apply first to new entities. So if you apply for a new entity like an LLC or a corporation beginning January 1st, 2024, or thereafter, you'll be required to follow through and provide this information. As to existing entities, corporations, LLCs that were formed prior to December 31st, 2023, they are giving you a 1-year grace. So that means not until January 1st, 2025 will you have to report the ownership of your entity, but you will have to report it. Now, there's a lot of issues coming in. First of all, this is going to the FinCEN department of the favorite governmental society for America, the IRS. Everybody loves the Internal Revenue Service, right? Where's the button? No beep, no bzzz. Right, exactly. Nobody likes.
Oh my God, that sounds like a foghorn.
Well, I think the IRS sometimes isn't a fog. Now I'm probably going to get audited. I probably shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, right.
That was actually Andrew said that. Andrew, Social Security number. That was it.
You use so many aliases on this show. Nobody even really knows what you're
All right.
doing. So don't worry.
We're going to be taking a break. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM, the Ask Brien Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Ask Brien Show on KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Like no other station in the world. Is that true, Andrew?
Yep.
Are we like no other station in the world?
Of course. Come on now.
By the way, how was your Christmas?
It was fantastic. So I was on the nice list this year. So
All right, so you
good
got.
things.
Oh my God, you didn't get caught lying. That's awesome.
That means he got 3 paper cups and a plastic fork.
Hey, I'll take
He
it.
really made out.
I'll take
He
it.
can't wait to eat his cake now. Now that he has a fork, he can eat it. Otherwise, it was hands only. All right, so some additional laws that Californians are going to have to deal with. One of which is Tracy's favorite. Okay? Bicycle signals.
Yes.
Now, do you put your hand out when you're making a right turn? I put my right hand out. Look, well, you can't see it on the screen. If you see it on the screen, you can see my right hand is straight out. That's how you make a right turn. That's a bicycle signal. But the new law that was passed, that's taking effect January 1st, requires bicyclists to obey bicycle signals whenever an official traffic control signal exhibiting different colored bicycle symbols is shown concurrently with official traffic control signals. What this means is that if you can get a ticket and you'll be stopped by the police if you're not following the rules of the road.
So cyclists are now a priority over criminals for citations.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. You know,
Gotcha. Alrighty then.
it's definitely more important to get a bicyclist than a murderer or a rapist. Yes, that's okay. But now my question is, what if you're a rapist, murderer, and you're on a bicycle?
Oh man, that is a triple whammy.
Andrew's giving me all sorts of signals.
You better use those signals, buddy.
The signals he's giving me is, let's go to the next topic. Okay. Here's another one. Speed cameras. Do you know what a speed camera is, Trace?
Unfortunately, yes, I do know what a speed camera is. I also know what it's like to get a speeding ticket in the mail.
Wow. I knew about cameras stopping you on a red light, but I didn't know that they actually have speed cameras, and that's what they're studying in certain cities.
Well, yeah, I guess my ticket I got in the mail was not for speeding, but, just put it in the pile with the rest.
Yeah, well, you had a great picture. Hi, as you're going through the red light. Anyway.
The worst is when it's your car, but someone else is driving it. That's happened to me too, and that is not fun. If it's
is that your story?
Ticket,
is that your story and you're sticking to it?
This is a true story. Then it's your ex who's driving your car, but by the time the ticket shows up, this was a while ago, but it was your ex driving your car, but by the time the ticket shows up in your mailbox, it's your ex, not your current. And so then you're just like really in a bad situation.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I digress. That was not business related, but
So we're going to go over 2 more, and then we're going to get back into this. So there are 2 big ones here. One is campsite reservations. So now, if you that's right, you have to make a reservation. You can't just go camping. If you want to make a reservation, hey, I want to be in Carlsbad Park or Yosemite or Morro Bay or any park in California, you have to make a reservation. You have to pay for that. You have to make a reservation. But now if you cancel within 6 days, just like a hotel, they're going to take the first night as a cancellation fee. So just like the hotels, you make a 6-day reservation, you don't show up, they charge you 1 day. Well, now California is going to do that. And another thing on campsites in California, the top 5 campsites are going to go to a lottery system. That's not going to take effect immediately. It's going to be done over the next year, but they're going to go to a lottery system. What does that mean? You want to go to Yosemite? It doesn't matter if you book it 3 years in advance. You're going to have to go through that lottery and get your campsite. Wow. But here's the biggest one, and I'm sure everyone is really, really concerned. If you go to a store that has over 500 employees, that's the Walmarts, the Targets, the Costco's, any big, probably a supermarket, and if they're selling toys, and they have boys' toys and girls' toys section, they are now going to be required. Can I get a drum roll? Now, do not attack me on this one because I'm not exactly in favor of it, but oh well. You must have a gender neutral section if you have a boys section and a girls section for toys. This one boggles my mind, and my question is, so you go to the department store and they have boys clothing and girls clothing. Are they now going to have gender neutral clothing? I would think so. And
Stay tuned for the 2025 episode for that one.
Well, it may take us a year for me to get over this, but yes. All right. And I do not want to discriminate against any group, and I don't believe there should be any problems. But requiring a store to do something like that, to me, is kind of far away out. What do you think, Andrew? He doesn't want to get in controversy. He's so you are gender neutral. He does not want to take sides. But I know who will come into this conversation and will pick his decision. Tracy, you're on.
But I just feel like things between these types of things should not be political things. That's the way I feel about it. I don't feel like businesses are businesses and these other issues are personal issues, and I just don't think that businesses should be required to have laws imposed on them in regards to personal issues. That's how I feel.
But do you think the government can regulate what a business and tell them what they have to do?
I mean, I think that we have to have regulations to keep things streamlined, but I think that the amount of regulations in the state of California have gone too far.
Okay. All right, so now we're going to get a little bit more into the Corporate Transparency Act. Now, this is the monitoring group for the Corporate Transparency Act is the Internal Revenue Service. That is Andrew's favorite organization. He loves them. In fact, he asked if he could give more money because they're not collecting enough. And within that division of the IRS, there's a Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. They call it FinCEN, FINCEN. That is the division where all of these reports are going to be made by beneficial owners. Now, the first question we're going to have to ask is, what is a beneficial owner? And the Act is going to define that. And the Act is going to define a beneficial owner. This is for a limited liability company or a corporation or any other entity that has to register with the Secretary of State in your state. And this is federal, so it doesn't just apply to California. It applies everywhere. Beneficial owners are people that are in control. Now, one definition is a 25% owner. So if you do own 25% of stock and you're not even involved in the company, you're going to have to report. Now, when you do report, there are forms, but they haven't been created yet, and you're going to have a 30-day deadline to file with your organization. Before we go any further, I was just alerted that our sponsor is calling on the phone going, why aren't we on right now? So we're going to take a break. We're going to be with our sponsor, Legal Steps. Legal Steps, you're on.
Legal Steps, providing the easiest way to handle legal issues. And this is the perfect time of the year to be talking about legal steps, because if your New Year's resolution is that you want to start a business and you haven't been deterred by all of these new laws that are coming out and you still want to start a business, then you want to start it out the right way. And sometimes legal counsel can be pricey, especially if you're a startup. So Legal Steps, and I just want to make sure we spell this right, LegalStepz.com, Legal Steps. You can go on Legal Steps. You can form your California business. You can register your trademark with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. And you can get all of the support that you need online, which will absolutely save you money, because even if you are not on a budget, which we almost all are on some level of a budget, it's still, you want to save money where you can when you're starting a business, right? So you don't always have to struggle by Googling things or reading a book or doing all that, because Legal Steps has it all wrapped up for you in courses, an incorporation course, a limited liability company course, a trademark course, and you can get all of the information DIY, and then you can DIY it, and you can feel really confident that you've gotten really good support and guidance because it's created by attorneys that have well over 30 years of experience in both the entities and the trademark. So head on over to Legal Steps, LegalStepz.com, and check it out.
Well, that was a lot of information there. Now, Legal Steps, they also do more than incorporations, correct?
Yes, they also assist you with registering your trademark and all kinds of stuff. Like if you look at their website, they will let you learn everything you need to know to form your business. And there's incorporation courses, trademark courses, limited liability company courses, videos.
And I heard they're going to do a new one very shortly on this Federal Corporate Transparency Act, because everyone that forms one is going to have to do that.
They need to do one on the bicycle signaling.
I was really more focused on the gender-neutral toys at Target, but okay. All right.
Yeah, but Target and Walmart, they've already been notified of what they have to do. So I think the bicycle signaling is probably more important. But, they didn't ask my opinion, actually, so I should probably keep it to myself.
That's what Andrew tells me every 10 time I talk. Because 80% is all personal. Anyway.
And that's why he is the engineer extraordinaire.
But he also gives me these facial expressions that you can't see, and he's a lot of OMGs. And do not tell me.
I can feel them. I feel those facial expressions.
Andrew, you want to say anything? Or are you speechless?
Speechless. Said it all. You said it all.
Now, that takes a lot, guys, because it's not very easy to make Andrew speechless. All right.
I'm pretty sure this episode has him way more than just speechless.
He's like, Peter, I like it better when you have a guest because you're too much on my back. Is that true? All right. It is holiday season. So, first of all, I want to explain a couple of things. This new Corporate Transparency Act is brand new. And obviously, new people that are incorporating after January 1st are going to have to deal with this. A lot of people may be able to wait a year, but it's very important. Why? It's being done for anti-laundering and anti-terrorism issues. The government wants to know who the owners of these entities are, so you can't hide behind somebody or create a scheme where people are transferring monies in and out. And so that's why they want to know who the owners are of each entity. Now, this information is going to go to Andrew's favorite group, the IRS, and the IRS will be capturing all this information. Some of this information that you're going to be required to give, for instance, the entity itself, so the corporation or the LLC, you're going to have to give a street address. You can no longer use the UPS store address or some address, where you may or may not be located, or some type of box. It actually has to be a physical street address is going to have to be reported. That's required on the corporation. There's a couple of other requirements. For instance, the person that is going to be the beneficial owner, which we're going to get into in a second, that beneficial owner is going to have to provide documentation. Some of this documentation, if you're a beneficial owner and you are required to report, will be your date of birth. You're going to have to list your date of birth when you file. Another document you'll have to file will be a government entity, something like a passport or a driver's license or an identity card, one of those three. Now, and it has to be an unexpired passport or an unexpired driver's license or some type of identity card in the state that you're located in. You can't just sit there and say, oh, I got a credit card or I'm just reporting some information. You're going to have to actually report that. Well, my biggest concern here is that there's a lot of information that the IRS is getting in addition. Now they're going to have your date of birth. They're going to have your passport number or your driver's license number. And with all this information, if any hacker can get into that system, wow. Wow, talk about identity theft. That's a huge one, right? That's going to be tremendous. So while they're trying to protect people here, the reality is it could be really, really bad if some of this information gets out. Now, people are asking, what is a beneficial owner? Okay, so I'm going to go strictly into the act, and a beneficial owner is, okay, anyone who exercises substantial control over the entity. So it's not solely owning 25% of the company. If you are the CEO of the company, or even a COO, Chief Operating Officer, you've got enough control over that entity, you are going to have to disclose. And what are you going to have to disclose? Your date of birth, your street address where you live, and a copy of your passport or driver's license or identity, and a couple other documents. That's all going to have to be reported. So there's a lot of information you're going to have to gather, and everybody's going to know, at the IRS at least, who the owners of the entity are. We're going to be taking a break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Show, KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. Welcome back. You're listening to the Ask Brien Radio Show, KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. You got that? All right. Tracy, you were going to tell people how people can listen to this podcast later on.
Yes, because in all seriousness, we may have been making light of some of these new laws, but there are also really important ramifications and consequences if you're not going to be adhering to them. And so I really want everyone to know that you have access to this episode to go back and review as a podcast, and that also includes the show notes where these new laws will be highlighted. And this is really important as you start and grow and scale your business. So make sure you search out, download the Ask Brien podcast. That's AskBrien, Ask Brien podcast. And so you can refer back to this and do some checks and balances for yourself on what these apply to you directly and how to implement them into your business.
And you asked me another question. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I was under the assumption we were talking about just California, but you were saying this transparency law is a federal law, so that if you have a business that's based out of Florida, but you're doing business in any state, you still have to file this transparency.
So the law applies to all 50 states. So in any state, doesn't matter if you're in Florida, New Hampshire, Hawaii, all 50 states are required to file this report. It has nothing to do with being in California. That's one part. Two, if you have a foreign corporation, but you're doing business in the United States, you also are going to be required to file a report. So it's not just, this is worldwide. This is part of the global concept here of anti-money laundering, the Pablo Escobars, the people that are involved in illegal activities, not Pablo Escobar though, other people are going, cartels, I guess, right? They're going to have to report if they're doing business in the United States. And it's kind of a way to track a lot of information, some of which I don't want to get into political discussions here, but a lot of people are going to be affected. Now, one of the things that is very, very important that we were discussing on the break, and that Andrew is so happy that he's going to agree to take care of it. But if you don't report, okay, or if you do report, but it's wrong information, okay, the penalty, there's a civil penalty of $500 per day. So if you just said, I'm not going to do it, government can't tell me what to do and what not to do, I'm not going to report, even though I own 85% of KHTS, okay, and you don't report it, and you willfully violate that and don't do it, you will be penalized $500 per day. That means in 1 year of waiting, that's $182,000. Okay.
Well, I think we should tell people where to go to file this paperwork then, so they can make sure they don't have this problem.
Well, and then on top of that, it also can be considered criminal. for not reporting this information. Now, again, this is through the IRS, Andrew's favorite group. And where are you going to go? So type in FinCEN, FINCEN, okay, and go to Google, and you can do that. We're going to do that right now, and I'm going to get you the information right now as we speak. Type in FinCEN, it'll tell you where it is. It'll be at the fincen.gov. Now, some of the forms are still being worked upon. There's been information telling us that it might be 90-day time limit for the first time, but after they get their act together and get organized, it's going to be a 30-day requirement that you're going to have to file these reports. But I think I've been told by some people, some insiders, that they're probably going to give you 90 days in the beginning. If you have a business that's existing before December 31st, 2023, you're okay. You've got another year to do this. But you're also going to have it filed by an applicant. So you can file it yourself, or you can have the applicant. The applicant will be the incorporator. Now, just to let you know, LegalZoom is not deemed to be an applicant. LegalZoom is not an incorporator. They're using your information to incorporate, so they're not required. Then you've got lawyers that will have to file these forms for you. They don't have to. You can have an accountant, or you can again do it yourself. But there is information that is required of both the applicant, the person filing the form, in addition to the actual beneficial owners of the entity. There's a lot more information, but Andrew's giving me these weird signals, and I guess the show is over. So until 2024, da-da-da-da, Ask Brien Radio Show, KHTS 1220, 98.1 FM, da-da-da-da-da-da. Over and out. See you 2024.